Happy Friday. I see you, Sharon. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful, wonderful Friday. And when we talk about more weekend coming up, what a great way to really have Leslie Flowers with us. Thank you, April. And before you guys joined, I was telling Leslie, just to give a minute or two. Usually people kind of coming in before, so that way they don't miss Leslie and all about the wonderful share and wisdom that she have. Thank you, April, Sharon, Michelina, and Anun. Hopefully I pronounced right. Anun Malik. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful Friday. And as people getting started to come in, thank you for those who are already here. We're going to get started since Leslie does have a hard stop at 1 today. And for those who don't know, I would recommend for you to also follow Leslie Flowers here. She has not only a wealth of wisdom, she's a love, kind, just a wonderful soul, not only to have in your presence, to be able to get her knowledge and wisdom, but just her awesomeness. And so you want to check her out and follow her. And thank you for joining us, Mehdi, for coming by for our Mindful Mingle event. It is happening every Friday at 12 to 1 Central Time. And then sometimes we have like amazing guests like Leslie Flowers and others. And if you like to be on my guest, just DM me. But we're going to get started. I'm going to turn over to Leslie Flowers so she can introduce what she's all about. The mic is yours, Leslie.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nhu, and welcome everybody. Glad that you're here. Today, Dr. Nhu asked me to talk about mindfulness as it pertains to the 100-year-old book, Think and Grow Rich. So thumbs up if you've at least read Think and Grow Rich one time. Give me a thumbs up if you have. Okay, Dr. Nhu has, and Michelina has. Fabulous. So give me a thumbs up if you've ever heard of the book Think and Grow Rich. Like, this is not the first time you've heard those words together. So I know you as an audience. Okay, so Sharon, this is your first time. Excellent, excellent. So let me just give you a little background and about me. I have been in personal development for 25 years and also was in corporate America for 45 years. For 10 years, I did leadership and transformational study. And then the last 15, 16 years, it has been becoming a world expert on the principles of success. And I got really interested in it when we got to the point as women coming into 21st century business, like full time, based on divorce rates, right? Everything was moving toward, everybody has to work, and we don't always have two-parent families. And of course, women coming into 21st century business for the first time, really, like full time, we were ill-equipped to go toe to toe with the men who've been doing business for 5,000 years. It's not that they're smarter, but over 5,000 years, they established the context for success in business. We didn't. We established the context for success at home. And I dare say, wouldn't you say, Dr. Nhu, if all the men came home, they'd have a few skills to learn. What do you think? I hear you in the background. So I'm just kind of curious what you think about that.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
most definitely. If it's back then to now.
Yeah. And you see it, so effectively, Think and Grow Rich, for those of you who don't know about it, it was written over 100 years ago. All of our personal development greats, maybe save one or two, have made their millions by following Think and Grow Rich, and they're primarily men. Many, many, many company business owners built their successful businesses on top of these are known as Carnegie's principles of success. Now, why is it so important? Well, all of these principles of business success that operate accurately pretty much every time, have been written for 5,000 years. But it wasn't until Napoleon Hill came around 100 years ago at the behest of Andrew Carnegie, who said, what is it that the one or two people out of 100 are doing that the rest of us don't know or are not doing? Hence came 20 years of research with our country's greatest successes. And it wasn't just one interview, it was dozens to prove and to, let's just say, the cream rises to the crop. What are the commonalities of highly successful people? You've heard before, do the things that successful people do, right? And what they do is what unsuccessful people don't do. Well, that's kind of a tongue twister. So when I got involved in Think and Grow Rich over the last 16 years, I have taught this for 62 business quarters to men and women so that they can go toe to toe and get the right mindfulness to become more aware of their potential. And that happens through learning. These principles are amazing. So that's the work that I do. Is I have a 12-week program that's in its 62nd or 63rd iteration, which has yielded 500 12-week goals for my clients. And the challenge has always been that nobody ever taught us how to set a goal. I haven't met anybody in 16 years that ever took a class. Well, that means that you're not going to be consistent in your results. So, anyway, I made it my mission, and it's been my mission. And so on Fridays, I finished up not too long ago a live training on Think and Grow Rich. And on Mondays, I have a Mind Over Matter audio room where we talk about the mindfulness that Dr. Nhu mentioned. And I'm so glad that you invited me. And I really like to start this by, you wanted me to look at mindfulness in terms of Think and Grow Rich. So if you'll allow me, I want to ask you, Dr. Nhu, because mindfulness is your specialty. So could you give us like 3 or 4 high points of when you teach and you present of principles of mindfulness, like the mindfulness person, I don't know, is a good listener. I don't know what those principles are, but it will help me a lot in relating it to the principles of success and connecting them. Is that fair enough, Dr. Nhu?
Yes. Thank you so
Okay.
much. And as you can tell, not only Leslie is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, and how she, and I love that when she brought, how we can also grow our mind, and because she's an expert not only in studies on the Think, Grow, Rich by Napoleon Hill, and how that also for me, everything start with our mind, right? And when you ask, when mindfulness, how does that really, for me, I see is that where we focus is where our attentions and everything that we want, it start with us. Where we focus, it's gonna grow. So same thing when we talk about mindfulness, is that it's the practice, that being in the moment, right? The moment is really the only time that you have to fully, like, one of the big meditation or expert that he's already not here anymore, Thich Nhat Hanh, right? And his one of his quotes is like, the mindfulness is the practice of being in the moment, and then this moment is the only time that you can be fully alive. And so that's one of the things that I think mindfulness is, that sometimes we learn about our past, but we have to learn to let go and learn from it. And how do we move forward and not look too ponder about the future? Yes, you can set clear goals and expectations of what you want, and that is will determine what your intention, what effort are you going to put into to be a better version of yourself, let's say. Or if you wanted a better business, whatever it is that you want to have, you go back and being in the present moment, right? Because if you live in the past, then you get stuck, either the regret, the fear of failure, or I should have done this, I could have done that, but I didn't. So that mindset of, that's for me is one, is being in the present moment. And then, mindfulness is really how we get to align who we are, know who our values are, our purpose, and being mindful of that, of the essence of who we are, to really know our weakness, our strength. Then you can move forward to grow better, right? And that is a reflection. Having that mindfulness is that you have to have moments of reflection, have moments of just yourself. It's not about what the world has out there that you're chasing out, but you got to go back to who you are. And that is the mindfulness. And the essence also is, and for me, I see that mindfulness also overcome, help us overcome those fears and doubts that Napoleon Hill also discussed, right? About the barriers to success. So I see a lot of similarity. It's just the philosophy and how we approach in the wording, but I see it's just so much, like when people think of Think and Grow Rich, it's not just rich in financial, right? Rich in what are your success mean, the richness in your life is all about the happiness within you, because it starts with us being mindful of how our own feelings, our intuitions, and what makes us feel love and joyful, rather than just a like materialistic things that you obtain that will be gone, right? Nothing is forever. And I think that is something that Napoleon Hill and what you will dive in, Leslie, it will be perfect for that, because a lot of people get stuck on it and not how to transform. That's a transformation. Having that mindfulness, and where we are, we start with us. Maybe just that. Would you like to dive in and we can go further more,
Yeah,
Leslie?
I just took about a bunch of notes while you were talking because I thank you for that. Maybe that was a little unfair. Hi, Darielle. So glad you're here. And I see many people here that I know, and mostly though people I don't know. No, so I know Darielle, who is a digital 21st century artist who brings ancient tribal kind of design into the 21st century. I made that up because it's quite phenomenal to see. And Laura Van is a communication specialist, and Sharon is a brand new friend. And you, of course, and everybody else, I will follow. Hope you'll follow me. And thank you for being here. So, Dr. Anu, that was perfect. Um, so the first thing that came to me was, do we even know who we are? The evolution of discovering who we are is growth in awareness. And conscious awareness allows us to transform. To point to Dr. New's point, what you were saying about transforming who we are into something better. It's growth in conscious awareness of our infinite potential. We have infinite potential. And what Think and Grow Rich does, especially like where we focus will grow. And what I've discovered, Dr. New, is one of the biggest problems that people come to me with is that I cannot focus. I can't concentrate. Well, why would we? We are bombarded daily with all of the technology, and we're disrupted. We're interrupted. We start one thing and something flash and fabulous shows up. We are gifted with so many opportunities that we've lost focus on one thing. So, the most important thing to grow mindfulness, Dr. New, we have a lot of feedback on your mic. Would it be inappropriate to ask you to mute
It
if you
is
hear me?
mute, but let me see if maybe I can.
Don't worry about it. I was just hearing a lot of, but do as you wish. Of course, you are the facilitator. um, and we'll keep going. So, uh, so it starts with focus, and that's what Dr. Nhu said. This is why I asked her those questions, because to be able to relate the principles of success to the principles of mindfulness, I need to know how you view mindfulness so I can find the common denominator. I hope that makes sense. So the first problem is lack of focus. The very first thing in the introduction, before you even get into the principles of success, excuse me, is creating a definite purpose, one goal, one thing that you want. I've got to get some water, just a second. Now, we really have two, what you learn in Think and Grow Rich is we have two minds. We have our conscious thinking mind, the presence. As Dr. Nhu talked about being present, the idea is you only have one thought at a time. So don't muck it up with negative things from the past, things from the future. You want to be present. You reminded me of Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. I don't know if anybody has read that, but it's a wonderful book. And there's a short story in there about the river of life. And when you stand in the river, you are present, but your past comes towards you and flows through you into the future. So you want to be that person standing in the river of your life in the present. And that's from Siddhartha, of course. So that brought that to mind. Now, we have two minds. We have a conscious mind that takes in information, accepts or rejects it. It's the least used of our mind. But as Dr. Nhu pointed out, and in the epilogue, I just taught this at 10 o'clock. That's probably why I'm coughing, because I've been talking. In the subconscious mind lives all your fears, 6 basic ones. They're real. You've experienced them repeatedly. And whenever you face doing something similar or like where you have failed before, the non-thinking mind, the reactive, automatic, triggered, autopilot mind resists. Only one thought is present at a time. And most of our thinking is reactive, but it's powerful. Fears are powerful. We learn in Think and Grow Rich. In fact, Napoleon Hill put the fears at the end of the book because the whole book is a journey into mindfulness, how to think differently, to open up a world of possibility through focus and through study. So it's not just reading it once. You won't get any book that way. In fact, how many books are on your shelf that you bought that you've never read? I mean, just think about that. We are collectors in a way. So what happens with the fears is this. It requires to build faith, something that you've not done before. So let's say one of the biggest fears that we have, there are 6 of them, and we all have them, and they show up at different intervals, but they are powerful. They're like experienced boxers. As soon as you get a new idea to do something that you failed at, maybe years ago when you were a kid or a teenager, who do you think is up at bat first? Oh, one of those fears. They're practiced, they're emotional, they're not very nice, they're a low vibration, they're not mindful, they're not thinking. But they've edged out your conscious awareness, your ability to choose what you think. Now, we're bombarded with so many thoughts all the time, you would think it doesn't matter, but only a few get through. And even the few that get through into your conscious mind of all the bombardment, even those get screwed up as they come in. How many times have I asked, could you say that again? I didn't quite understand it. Could you say it another way? So very little gets in, but we can reject it. Now, that's consciously, but the TV running in the background does the same thing. And whatever you consciously think repeatedly in spaced intervals over time is impressed into your subconscious mind. This is all in Think and Grow Rich. And it is now a belief, like all the fears are. So the idea here is since we only have one thought at a time, and since when we get a new idea that's exciting and that we really want to do, the negative fears remind us don't stick your neck out. You failed before. What will happen? People will talk about you. I don't have the money. What if I get sick? What if I fall down? What if my boyfriend leaves me? There's six basic fears which all the fears fall under. So you can see, like during the pandemic, the fear of getting COVID was real, right? And so you consciously use the smart part of your mind and you made a decision, you had a choice. Am I going to wear a mask or not? Am I going to get inoculation or not? But the fear of illness was real and present for all of us. And then there's a fear of losing someone through death or someone breaks up, like, you've been married for a long time and your marriage breaks up. So that's fear. I want to go try something new, but what if he doesn't like it? That's the fear of criticism. You've got the fear of poverty. Less than a tiny percentage of one are born into wealth. So what do we believe? There isn't enough money. And how did we get that belief? Well, we can't afford it. Wait till the taxes come in. Let's go to the bank. We've got to do gas before this. Through spaced repetitive intervals over time, on purpose or default, we are loaded up with fears and they work. They will stop you from sticking your neck out. The problem is the greatest gifts man has created in this world started without knowing how. Well, if you don't know how to do it and you failed at it before, that's pretty scary. So the work in Think and Grow Rich extrapolates on a lot of different aspects of how we do business. And the purpose of it is for you to consider new ways of thinking. So we all have our perception, which, by the way, is conscious. And our view of things that I've learned from Think and Grow Rich, Dr. Nhu, and those listening, perception and our point of view on what's right, wrong, good, or bad isn't static. So people argue for their point of view, my way, my candidate, but every new bit of information we get slightly grows or disintegrates, but assuming it's positive, we grow in our perception. We add things. We listen to what's okay. Did you hear that, Dr. New? That's you're not being mic'd or me not being mic'd or both of us together. Anyway, okay. So as long as everybody can hear, I'll keep going. So the idea in Think and Grow Rich is first focus, which is exactly what Dr. Nhu talked about. And where we focus, we're going to go. So what do? We come up with a definite purpose, one thing. Well, that flies in the face of our lives. So it takes something. You have to want it. You have to be curious about it. And when you're ready, don't let anybody else convince you that you ought to or should, because remember, that's based on their point of view, which is always changing too. And why should I give up my value, standards, and ideals to follow yours? Mine work for me, your for you. So the trick is to listen to why a person is so sure their way is the right way, because sure enough, something inside what they say, you'll go, ooh, hadn't thought about that. Then you add that to your perception. Now you're more aware. Now you make better decisions. So first, it's having a definite purpose and focus. Then it's to pick something to go after that you could fall in love with. It's something heart centered. It's maybe giving back. It could be money, and you're allowed to be abundance, but always it has something to do that has a big impact in service. Because the one thing I got through the book is that real success lies in giving back and gratitude. And you already knew that. You've heard that before. So you have to pick something that is stronger than your fear. So, as example, one of my clients a couple of quarters ago, very shy, great businesswoman, and decided she wanted to learn to do interviews live on LinkedIn on video. Well, she's not a public speaker. She's afraid. She has the fear of criticism. She, like me and most of us, have been faced with humiliation as a younger person when we did it wrong, or the kids laughed at us and we fought back the tears. And we said to ourselves way back then, I'm not getting up in front of an audience anymore. And many adults get nauseous as adults if they're asked to speak. Anyway, she's my client, and we pick a goal for 12 weeks. And she had a purpose in interviewing her clients. It was actually to edify them. That's what we decided on, that she decided. And so I produced in the background, and I've been doing lives forever. The first time she got into the studio, she had a piece of paper, her hands were shaking. She looked around. I mean, you could tell she was a fish out of water, right? Well, I have to tell you, I produced it and I kept an eye on what the comments were, and I fed her private messages. At the end of 12 weeks, she knew the technology in the studio. She needed no piece of paper. She needed no script. 12 weeks in a row, she became super proficient in doing lives, overcame the fear of public speaking, and she's done it 2 more sequences. So now she's gone 36 weeks doing lives like a pro, but she was afraid. She had, was humiliated when she was younger. So we had to come up with a reason why this would be a purpose strong enough. And it just so happens that it's a new business, and these clients were practitioners, and the why was to bring them customers, because the business doesn't work if they don't know about their services available. So that is the way to begin anything you want. That's the roadmap. What do you want that's in service, that is so powerful that you are the one? You have to be the one, and you do not know how to do it, but it's stronger than the fear of the failure of trying something like that before. Then once that you outwit fear in that moment, and that's in the beginning, but it shows up again. Oh yes, on your way to the goal, you're going to have those moments, since you didn't know how, and you don't know how, you just know a few steps along the way here and there. But the magic that Napoleon Hill talks about are people and opportunities that show up on your path that you think are coincidences. And this is another opportunity to think differently. What if there are no coincidences? What if what there is for us to learn is that we are cause in the matter of our lives, that we are co-creators. We don't exactly understand 100% how it works. We don't have to. Your intuition will tell you if it's true or BS. We all have strong intuition. So then you learn to build faith. Now, we've all built faith, and faith in getting that thing that you want that does a good thing for other people. So you're hyper-focused. It's in service. It doesn't mean that you're not going to earn money. You get to be abundant, but you're hyper-focused on that. And when fear shows up, here's the question I ask myself. If I'm halfway down the road and all of a sudden I'm having one of those days and I'm thinking, oh my God, this was a really bad idea, I think I'll just chuck it. Ever been there? I remind myself and ask the question, why did I start it in the first place? And as soon as I go back to the originating point, again, I've outweighed fear and I continue on my way. When you complete something that you've never done before that is big in service, this is what I've learned studying Think and Grow Rich. What you've actually done, not only have you overcome the fear that was true, you've built perfect faith in yourself, in your ability to do something you've never done before, and for many of us, our deserve ability, because wrapped up in our fears often are this is this feeling that I really don't deserve it. So now you've disproven that fear. That belief now moves over into the subconscious and becomes automatic. Now, one isn't going to go up against all your fears, but that's the process, the biomimicry of how is it we got these crummy beliefs that run our lives and that are automatic. Now, I was going to tell you that the reason Napoleon Hill could have put the six ghosts of fear at the beginning. But I would ask you, if you opened up a book and it started off with the six basic fears, that you fear of death, fear of old age, fear of sickness, fear of loss of loved one, fear of having no money, and fear of criticism of everybody else, I'd put the book down. However, by the end of the book, he has taught you that the next step is the powerful ability to make a decision. And that's where the question comes in. When you're distracted by the bright, shiny object syndrome, right? Something new shows up and plays right into our lack of focus. But here's what I do. If somebody drops something juicy in my lap that I really want to do, but I'm focused, like right now, on a book launch for July, I ask myself this question. If I do this, will this take me directly toward my current goal? And if the answer is no, I do not do it. That's the hardest thing. And I will say, boy, this is really great. Could we discuss this in a few weeks? So that's the question to ask yourself as you're moving toward the thing that you want. When you become enamored, curious, or distracted by something else, check in with yourself. Is this going to take me toward that goal, which I'm working on right now? Because the purpose of a goal is to be motivated long enough to complete it. Starting one and skipping to another and skipping to another is haphazard and sporadic results. It doesn't lead to mindfulness. It doesn't lead to a life of wealth, health, and happiness. It's not following any kind of a process. It's willy-nilly. And then persistence is part of it, because now you've been doing this for a while. So you check off that principle. Persistence leads to discipline. You're doing that. Sports enthusiasts do that. And then you get to the point of completion and experience. So once you've done all this, now you're living in the present, in the experience, at a higher level of awareness. The purpose of all of this is to slowly and incrementally absorb and learn things, different ways of thinking, and not all of them, only the ones that align with you. Anything that I've said that confuses you or you don't like, drop it. There's enough here. If you find one thing that you want to bite into, what will happen is that you will leave this room at a higher level of conscious awareness of your infinite potential. And that is what Think and Grow Rich is all about. It's about being an agile thinker. It's about being consciously aware and not being run by automatic and reactive behavior, but thoughtful, taking a pause, as Dr. Nhu says, being in the present. That is the power that about 3 people out of 100 have mastered. And the end result is what? Well, you save time. And that is the one commodity you can't get back no matter what. So these questions, the focus, the going from beginning through the process, starting with a definite purpose. will save you precious time, which you can't get back. So I think that covered it, and for now anyway. So Dr. New, I bet I've shared a few things that have got you percolating. So thank you for allowing me to share, and welcome to all the beautiful people in the audience. I see Matthew and Sumaya and Lachelle and Felipe and April and Dr. Constance have joined. So thank you, and thank you, Dr. New, for having me.
Wow, thank you, Leslie. I'm not sure if those who are listening have you some light bulbs come up or something that you like, yes, or it resonate with you, because that is what I want everyone to experience if you haven't really get to know Leslie, right? And thank you. I see you, Lachelle, Felipe, April, of course, Dr. Constantine, CJ, Sis, and Somaya, Matthew, Diane, Daryl, David, Laurel, and Mady, and of course, Michaelina. Thank you all for joining us on this wonderful conversation. A pleasure and an honor for us to have Leslie Flowers here, talking with us about, in our event about mindful mingle and mindfulness, and how Think and Grow Rich book from Napoleon Hill and mindfulness really has a lot in commons, and where when she talks about, you see how wherever we focus is where it grows. And when we talk about the fear, right, and what she mentions, all that, the basic fears of, poverty, of being criticized, or being ill health, right, fear of loss of loved one, fear of old age, and fear of death, right, all of that is your fear embedded in preventing us from taking actions. And one of the things that Leslie mentioned about the success, how what is that you want to be that is in service of others, right, even if you don't know how, but you have that much higher than anything else that you want is so bad, that you will be able to overcome. And how, in that book that she just mentioned, just very, how her example of someone that worked with her has overcome the fear and now is doing amazing things, how your belief and your passions, but your mind is that subconscious mind of retraining our mind of, do I deserve it, right? That fear is, do I deserve wealthy? Do I deserve to be healthy, right? Do I deserve to live longer? Or, I'm afraid because you see people who pass away earlier than at your age, or if you're already there. But the point is, how do you take action so we don't have regrets, right? Because our time is so precious. The time that we have is now. And if we don't take action now, we're going to forget and be regret that we did not take that actions, whether it's a simple things to forgive someone, right? To call and say that I forgive you, that you've done wrong, whatever it is. Small action, but will lead to your transformation because you're willing to let go of that bitterness inside of not forgiving someone. But also taking action of showing your gratitude, right? That gratitude is huge for transformation. So the keys to success, if nothing else you get out of, is in giving back and gratitude, right? Those are things that, if nothing else that you get out of, how can I give back more, and how can I show my gratitude more? Watch your life transform, even that. But in anything that you do, just be mindful how your own intuition, how all is telling you, your energy level. How is it elevating you to motivate you, inspire you to do even better? You're more calm, you're more peaceful? Or you're in an environment and community, or you're doing things that doesn't serve you well? And watch your energy. Is it demotivating you? Is it giving you into that gossip and giving you things that, wasting your time and ponder what other things about you, right? That is the fear of criticism of others about us. So those are things that we have to be able to train ourselves to let go of those six basic fears, right? But basic, it's gonna overcome our life if we're not in control. Wouldn't you agree, Leslie?
Yes, and yes, and you really don't, you really let go because nature abhors a vacuum. So you can't just let go without something being there. So the development of an agile mindset and the willingness to stop, breathe, and think of things a different way will take that place. So, for example, take the fear of poverty. We have a poverty mindset, unless you're a Trump or a Rockefeller, someone who never heard, right, we can't afford it in all the different forms. So, like 99.99.99.99% of us have a poverty mindset. Our parents did, their parents did. There just isn't enough. And it is passed on that way. So, with a poverty mindset, it is one of the hardest ones to outweigh. So, what you have to do is you kind of play a game. See, it's really using biomimicry. Now, you guys know this is so much fun, this piece of it. Biomimicry is when people invent things that match, for example, the aerodynamics of the fastest bird or a bullet train, right? They copy the attributes of something that they want and put it into metal form, if you will. So aerodynamics is a good example in birds. So what I've done, and with this Think and Grow Rich, one day I woke up and I realized that children already know all this. Children manifest the best because the fears in them are as deep seated as ours. We've been listening to our fears for decades. They've been stopping us. But a child, while they do have certain fears, if there's something that they want, let's say they want to learn to ride a bike, they do not have a fear of falling off. And if they do fall off, they hop right back on because the love and the desire to ride that bike, to be with their friends, is more important than even the thought of falling. But yet, today, if you gave me a bicycle, my first fear would be that I would hurt myself because I'm not in good condition. So I would wipe that off. But I know better. So when you are an agile thinker, what I'm hiding is when I had my knees replaced, I recuperated in the pool with aqua aerobics. So, in my smart side, if you will, all I have to do is go and sign up to start doing water aerobics. But I'm not doing that. So, there's a fear there. Which one of the six is it? See, even if you really get good at this, you are not going to be without some fear. The idea is how soon can you take a breath? As Dr. Nhu says, can you get present? Can you stop yourself from being reactive? And then the more you know, the less anxiety you have. So take, for example, you're starting a business and your first milestone is $50,000. And so as you go from 0 to 50,000, there are lessons to learn along the way. And you learn that. So you can enjoy the 50,000 when you hit it. Now, next thing is 100,000. Okay. Now, in order, as you accrue 100,000, there's going to be all sorts of lessons for you to learn how to manage it, problems, challenges, and all the solutions that you come up with. So you are now a perfect match to enjoying and being successful at that $100,000 rate or value. Now, let's say you're going to go to 150 or 200,000. Well, let me just tell you, as your business expands, a whole new bunch of obstacles show up that you will navigate. You will learn, and as you move up, if that's what you want, then you are always a match vibrationally with the amount of money you're managing or your life in general. Therefore, you can enjoy yourself. Now, a different scenario is the person who wins the lottery. All of a sudden, they've got six, seven figures, and they have never been a match. So the obstacles are overwhelming. There's no enjoyment. People come out of the woodworks. These people that win commit suicide. Other people, they can't enjoy it. I mean, I used to think if I won $1 million, oh, but then I realized, oh, I don't really like finances very much. So I don't really want $1 million, right? Because along with that comes a whole lot of lessons about finance that I'm not interested in. I don't like it, right? So the idea is that if you grow in awareness of your potential as you move along, which just means continuing to learn, try on concepts like this, learn about the principles of success. I also teach the universal law. And the way that helps is, for example, the day you manifest or you hold the thing in your hand that you want so very much is not controlled by you. Oh, you do what you're supposed to. You pick a date, you think about it, and you move toward it, and you stay focused on it, and you fall in love with it. You do all the stuff that we know to do because this is exactly how children get this thing. However, the day of manifestation is ruled by one of the universal laws. That's God, universe, spirit, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Allah, I don't care. It is our co creator. It's one omnipresent source of energy whose job it is to help you be successful, period. God never wants you to fail. And so that's why a lot of times things are held back when you're not quite ready and you wonder why. And now I forgot where I was. Oh, God. Dr. New, where was I? I lost my
No,
train of thought.
I love that because your thoughts were, sometimes we wonder why you're doing so many things and you're not there that success. But when you're not ready, it's not going to show up. That's, I think, your thoughts on that.
Well, that's where I was there, but I got off on a tangent. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, there's so much. Oh, yeah, yeah. I know what it was. It was that the universal law takes the anxiety off of you. So let's say you get within a week of your goal and you've done everything right. Well, our natural fear is if you don't hit that goal, that you failed. But when you know that your job is to do the things we talked about that are in Think and Grow Rich and a lot of other places, but this is a good consolidation, then you don't have the anxiety. You don't give up because you already know that the universe has your back and that if you aren't ready, it will be held back. But in most instances, when you and I work together, we'll do it in 12-week increments. So you can do a lot in 12 weeks. You can write your book in 12 weeks. You can learn to become a professional, anything in 12 weeks following this, pretty much, right? But if for some reason you don't get it, it simply means that there's more for you to learn. So I think that I'll pause there. I'm so glad to see Laura. How are you, Laura? And I knew, as you know, I have to leave it too, but before we get into all these conversations, I would love to hear what people in the audience, what's bubbling up for you. You've probably heard these things a different way from a different source, maybe even the Bible. These things are not new. What I'm sharing with you is my interpretation after 16 years and 20,000 hours, 90 iterations of studying this book. This is how I see it and how I explain it. But don't get me wrong, not everything that I share is going to be clear or resonate with you, but there can be someone right on this stage, Dr. Nhu, Laura Van, that says pretty much the same thing, but it lands for you better. Keep in mind that when you leave here today, you will be at a higher level of conscious awareness than you were when you came into the room. So thank you, Dr. Newt.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. And I want to kind of give a disclaimer out that Leslie Flowers, not only if you haven't followed her, do follow her and get to know her, but also she does have a hard stop at 1 o'clock Central Time. So for those who would like to ask questions or would like to interact with her, the time would be now. And thank you. I see Diane, and all those, Lisa, Kristen, Margaret, Angelica, for all those who just joined us and all those who are still here. I appreciate you all for joining with us here on this wonderful Friday. And for those who like to, come up, ask questions or speak, feel free to click there's a thing that was saying, raise your hand, and I'll bring you up. So the mic, I believe it will be yours, Laura. And thank you for coming up. And Mick, I see you.
Oh, thank you so much for to come up, Dr. New. And thank you, Leslie. I am one of your biggest fans as well. And why is that? Because you have very, and I mean this really sincerely, you connect in a very human way. You're very honest and straightforward. And I remember once we had a conversation a while back, we were trying to get to know each other a bit more. And he said, Laura, I want to know about you. Who are you? Tell me about you. Share with me your story. And it was a great reminder because as experts, we have certain levels of expertise and we're always ready to talk about all of our expertise, and that's good. Of course, we should do that. But when you also, in your messaging, include the idea that number one, growth, personal growth, and professional growth is something we have to be ready for. And when we're ready for it, it is true, the universe will bring you those opportunities. Isn't it amazing? You start out in one direction before you know it. You start meeting people. I've met Dr. New, I've met Les, I've met many of you here, just in the process of growing as a coach. And this, the other point I wanted to acknowledge, and then I'll get off to give other people an opportunity. Um, Things come to you not only when you are ready for them, but when you believe that you deserve them. Your success comes when you believe that you deserve it. And how does one's feeling that they deserve success happen over time? It happens by interacting with positive supporters, such as the people here. It happens when we're willing to stop putting ourselves down, silencing our inner critic, becoming aware of our inner critic, learning that asking for help is not a weakness but a strength. Those are just some of the key points. And I think that you all do a wonderful job of that. And I think it's just amazing what has happened here on LinkedIn and how we all have an opportunity to share and to support one another. Thank you.
That was a great share. And in the interest of time, I do want to tell you a quick story out of Think and Grow Rich to Laura's point, which is, well, and we've all discussed this, that sometimes it takes time. There's a story of a woman 100 years ago named Fannie Hurst, who's written many books and movies. And 100 years ago, she moved from the Midwest to New York. And as Napoleon Hill puts it, she walked the streets of Broadway for 4 years trying to sell her written work. Now, think about this. How many of us would go for something for 4 years? And she was rejected by the New Yorker 26 times. Now, what happened was at the end of 4 years, Napoleon Hill writes, finally, Broadway gave up. In other words, she had put in what was required. She received the first $100,000 advance 100 years ago for work that she hadn't written yet, and the first woman, and went on to, do a lot of books and movies, but the idea was here that she was not going to get that thing until the universe or God felt that she would be a success. God, our creator, is going to help us be successful. So that's one of the times when it took 4 years, to your point, Laura, and I'll stop talking so that Mick can get in here and say whatever she has to say before I jump off the stage.
The mic is yours, Mick.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Nhu, for the opportunity to share. Leslie, you did an outstanding job. Thank you. That was so great. I'm a huge fan of Napoleon Hill. I've studied the book. I've read it a number of times. I've run a little book study on it. It's phenomenal. It's a great book no matter what your specialty is in life. There are just so many golden nuggets in there. And I just want to share from my own experience. I've noticed over time that I was sabotaging myself. Self-sabotage is a problem that I think I recognized in myself that it was my thinking, and it was all about the paradigms and the programming that I had, this operating system. And much of it oftentimes can come from just childhood, right? The way we were raised, or maybe we had a traumatic experience. I know in my case, the loss of my dad at a very young age caused some programming that I've needed to overcome. So learning how to, come face to face with those saboteurs and retrain your brain is something that, can be done. So I guess my message is if you're feeling stuck, just don't lose hope. Like you can definitely retrain your brain and retrain your thinking. It just requires getting into the mental fitness gym. Just like you would go to a physical gym to build your muscles, you can rebuild and retrain your brain and build new neural pathways and get your brain working the way you want it to. So anyway, thanks again, Leslie. That was wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Nhu. Thank you, Laura. And I will hand over the mic. Have a great day, everybody. Happy Memorial Day weekend.
You like to say anything, Leslie, before she's gonna hop on switch to
Yeah,
the phone?
yeah, well,
Okay.
I just went to phone so I can walk out the door. We sound, Mick, we sound like we've done some similar stuff, so let us connect because what you're saying and everybody listening is another way to say the same thing that may resonate with you very much. So it's okay if it doesn't all click with me, as long as something clicks, right, Mick?
Absolutely, absolutely. Amen to that. Yeah, I think the message is it's interesting when you look at the different teachers, even Dr. Joe Dispenza, Leslie, I don't know if you're familiar with his work, another phenomenal researcher and author, et cetera. It's all about going inside the brain and sort of retraining, rewriting the operating system, I guess is the best way for me to explain it. And you can do it. You can do it.
I would invite you to consider articulating that you are retraining your mind, that the mind is an activity and it is where we're working and it is not an organ. But when we create these new beliefs in ourselves, new neural pathways in the brain are created. So it's just an idea, something for you to consider for fun.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And I know Nat and Matthew, you came up. Thank you for coming up. What would you like to share?
It's actually a different share than the one I came up with. The one I came up with was when you talked about goals, about commercial money. We should probably look at what we need rather than what we want. But to get back to something that I think it was Leslie said about the person on Broadway. My dad in the early 1990s set up a business in Cork in Ireland, and he banged down the doors of all the pharmaceutical companies in Ireland for years. And eventually he got in the door. The poor guy passed away in 1999, but his business was bought in 1995. and it still bears his name to this day. It's the biggest engineering company in Europe. So it's just a message of persuasion does work.
Thank you, Matthew. And if you're able to maybe increase your mic volume, so that way others might be able to hear it. I'm having a little trouble hearing you, like it's very soft.
I did hear something, and forgive me as I'm opening the car door. Matthew, I thought I heard you say it ought to be, goals ought to be something you need rather than you want. One of the 12 laws of the universe is the exact opposite, that you never set a goal for what you need, but always for what you want. So let's talk about it, because it's so much fun. Most of the things we don't know about consistent achievement is are counterintuitive, just like this. You would think it would be easier to do something for need. No, it must be want. And anyway, we'll talk about that another time. And I hope that you were able to turn your volume up.
Thank you. And Leslie is gracious enough to still be on the phone while she's driving or on the way. Please drive carefully, Leslie. And thank you. And Sharon, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would, Dr. New. Thank you so much for inviting me to the stage. I just wanted to say that I've done a lot on in this area of, you know, retraining my belief system. And I think that we have to, there's a difference between acknowledging your circumstances as fact and letting your circumstances define where you want to go or where you're able to get to. So, what I like to do is help myself and help others create a vision for the life they want in any aspect of their life, because you can, manifestation without action stays a dream or stays an idea. But if you can create a vision for yourself and then you can, lean into the energy of that vision, it will help you to take the steps that you need to take to get from where you are to where you want to be. So I just wanted to share with people that there's a difference between acknowledging your circumstances and letting your circumstances define how far you can go. It's about creating that vision and then allowing yourself to take the action steps that go along with that, the energy of that vision. Thanks, Dr. New.
Thank you, Sharon. I think Leslie went up. I don't know if you like to say something or feedback on that, Leslie.
No, I really have to drive. I had to reboot, so I came back up on stage magically. Thank you again, Dr. New. Sharon, fantastic as usual. You and I are kindred spirits. And I'm going to go to the listening lounge now. Many blessings to all of you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Drive safely. And we
Thank
are
you,
blessed.
Leslie.
And thank you, Sharon, for coming up and sharing also. And yes, that's the thing that I think weaving in with mindfulness and Napoleon Hill, of that clearing that subconscious mind, right? That we believe in, when you're saying that yes, you can acknowledge your circumstances where you are now, but you have to not be limited to saying, let's say, oh, you don't know the language, you don't have X, Y, and Z, so I can't do that. That's you limiting your own belief. But if you, whatever your circumstances, whatever you believe about yourself, but if you surround yourself with others that can also inspire you, motivate you to also know that it's possible, because you see others who might be, let's say, don't have the circumstances as you, or whatever the condition you are, but they can do it too. So why can't you, right? That will also open your mind to the possibility of, if they can do it, I can do it. And also confirming that if you not only work hard, but it start with having that positive mindset and growth mindset, and how we can be of service to others. And for me, anyways, is that it always come back to that the whole point what Leslie earlier mentioned is the real success at the end of everything, and even the book that we're referencing, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, is that the real success is in giving in service to others and the gratitude you have. And each and every moment that we say that we have enough, meaning you are enough, you have all within you to do whatever it takes for your dream, your goal, whatever it is, then your mind over matter. Your mind is much stronger than the things you have, the circumstances, the belief that you put yourself, that self-limiting belief or the self-sabotage. Another way of saying when Mick was here, when she's saying about the self-sabotage, we all have to be able to train and be able to relearn, right? The things that we already being set up in our mind subconsciously that we are not aware of. So that way we can bypass and go beyond your fear. And how do you do that? And that's the success of you making progress every day. And how do we show up, right? That's why when people say words and thoughts, everything is it's whatever you are surrounded, influenced by your community, the people you interact with, you absorb so much influence by the thoughts and emotion. If you notice whatever communities you focus on, your mind and your attentions go there, right? Versus, let's say if you hang out with friends that play games, nothing wrong with playing games, but if you play games all the time and there's nothing of service of others, right? You're not really getting anything out of it. But if you want success, unless you're going to develop a game, right? Or something, innovation for others in a positive way. But in general is how do you move forward and surround yourself and grow and nurture yourself so you can be 1% better every day. So that way we can be of service of others. That's the gift in life that we have. Thank you, Margaret, for coming up. Would you like to share something?
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Dr. Nhu, and respect and love to you and Dr. Leslie Flowers as well. And hello, Sharon, beautiful Sharon, Michelina, and 13, well, I'm including Dr. Leslie. 13 beautiful people, 14 beautiful people listening. When you were speaking right now about what you surround yourself with, I always say that, especially since I have a preteen, right? So it always reminds me of that quote. If you want to soar, you hang out with eagles, but if you want if you want to just cluck like chickens, you hang out with chickens. It's so funny. But I just came up here, but it's so true, right? It's funny when you say it like that, but it's true. So I tell her, you want to soar like an eagle. You don't want to cluck like a chicken. But I just came up here to say a couple of quotes. I love Napoleon Hill, absolutely. Read his books. But I also admire and appreciate O.G. Mandino. I don't know how many people have heard of O.G. Mandino, but I like his books, The Greatest Salesman, and then The Greatest Miracle on Earth as well, which is us. And one of the things he says is only a habit can subdue another habit. And I love this one especially. It says, I will love the light, for it shows me the way. Yet I will love the dark for the night, for it shows me the stars. So that's what I was going to tell you all. So, you have to have both the negative with the positive. We're not going to all have rainbows and butterflies every day. And I was just talking to Sharon about this too. So you have to give yourself grace in the times that you have to go through those tough times, those, flashbacks, childhood trauma, or negative thoughts, or whatever, it's a healing process. It's a grieving and healing process all the time. And it's okay to go through those. You can cry. You know, you can do this and that. You can go through the night because either way, you're going to see stars. So it's okay. Um, However, you know, to have a positive, it's like I always say, the battery, you know, the car runs with a negative and positive battery, right? So it's very important to have both, and very important to kind of, I feel like, since they're both there, how are you going to respect both of them, you know, and incorporate them into your life and overcome and overachieve and successfully, you know, look at things in a successful manner is what I'm saying, with a successful growth mindset versus a fixed one. Yes, we all knew we had childhood trauma. Yes, we all went through this and that. However, we make the choices today and we break those generational curses. We break those strong barriers, you know, that have held us back. I mean, we're here. We're here. That goes to say a lot for why we're all present today in this present moment. And as always, I'm always blessed to be in everyone's presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margaret. And before I it's one of the things that if you can drop by maybe in the link for those if they're interested in the book that you recommend or you love, Margaret, you can welcome to do that. In case those who don't know, you know, sharing is caring. So, you know, you can drop by and see if those like in the comments in the poll to see if they would like to check that out. But you know, the Think and Grow Rich is like a classic, I think, of that it can apply to like all industry, all walks of life, all religions, because we're all the same. Because I see similarity, I see so much alignment and values that so much of the essence and what Napoleon Hill tried to not only give out so much wisdom, right? Sharing knowledge and wisdom is how do we be successful? Because in life, a lot of time people always look for is the chase of success. What does it mean to be success? And how can I overcome those obstacles and fear, right? And inaction and not taking actions. Because the world needs people who are, whether it's innovation of trying to create something new because of during the midst of all the obstacle, but that's doing obstacle, there's opportunities. That's the thing that I always, you know, when doing anything that you see that you don't like of your workplace or your own company, that's where innovation comes in. It's how can I make it better for the people who you work with or people work for you and for humanity. That is the success of giving back in service of others. When you're having compassionate for others, you will lead not only with love and kindness and empathy and a grace to forgive others, but you will also see so much growth in what you're willing to do, and you will overcome your fear and not doing things that maybe public speaking, standing on, you know, camera, take pictures. You know, I think Leslie mentioned earlier, just, you know, before I now call, is that someone who never done the live stream and did not know the technology. Now she's a pro at it. Not much of a public speaker person, but she overcome her fear of showing up. What if you messed up, right? You talk and you slur your speech and all. But the moment you have convictions and your passion and your value and purpose, you know who you are, what you want bad enough that you will overcome that because you know that the pro, like the benefit and the risk, right? What are your options of the risk and benefit that comes with it, with not taking action and just staying stagnant as who, and just be going with the flow and just be walking life half asleep and not really no meaningful, no purpose, right? And so that's where life is get more meaningful and more valuable because we're more awake, we're more alert, we're more focused in knowing who we are and what we're able to give to the world. And the world is not people think of, who am I to make an influence? But we all influence the people around you, your kids, your dog, your neighborhood, your workplace, the people you work around, people you interact with every day. You have influence. And your life will change the moment you realize how much impact and how much influence you are giving out for people in your circle and people who interact with you every day. Your life will be more blessed, more success. It comes with knowing who we are first, because like what Leslie also mentions, a lot of time people also chase the shiny object, right? Because of the world highly talks about, oh, you can't do multitask in the world. I used to be that in the corporate world also, but is that really benefit us, right? To truly focus, even if you can multitask, but it's the same one. You focus in hyper focus in your goals and your purpose in life and your value. It has to be matched. But if you go in shining object and new things come up, you go everywhere, and if it doesn't align, and then you don't go back to, is this serving me? Is this of service? Is this giving back? And is this showing gratitude? I think everything comes when you're more aware and being really mindful of our presence and our thoughts and how we transform. And that, for me, mindfulness is all about being in the present moment and knowing who we are, what all the things come, the people we interact with, and where are our focus, right? The same people that in the community, the same conversation. But if we focus on positivity, growth, and so much of alignment, and we can collaborate, we can do so much more because we speak on the same vibration, that energy coming out, even though different words, right? Different ways of thinking, perspective, but it's all the same. Versus someone who don't see that, then your focus is somewhere else. So that's where you have to know and be aware and not judge where your thoughts are, where it's coming in. Just make a note of it, journal, write it down, and see where, it will tell you. If you come back and say, okay, I've been in this meeting, how was your feeling afterward? How was it, your energy level? Your people interact with, the people that you coach, right? So you know who your ideal people are also, and how are you best serving your time here. And so that's something that, I love and adore and have much respect and for, not only for Leslie Flowers, her wisdom, but who she is as the essence of who she is. That's where she not only sharing her wisdom and knowledge, not just for making money, right? That's where the essence of, who the person is and what they want to do in this world when you get to know on a deeper level than just on the surface why they do the certain things. And so it's just an honor, a pleasure. I know she's in the listening. And, for those who are here with us first time, we do have this Mindful Mingle every Friday at 12 p.m. Central Time. And just come and mingle. If you have anything you'd like to share, anything you'd like to talk about that might help you, this is a free, not only, it's a safe place for you to talk about and know that you are loved, you are worthy of anything, that you deserve anything in life, not only much success, abundance of joy, money, but happiness and healthy, to you and your family. And I really do wish, and I know that Leslie also mentioned, for those who come across and interact with us, may you always be blessed and have more heightened awareness of who you are and what you're able to do, and know that there's people around always listening, cheering you on, like Margaret here, Sharon, Madi, Daryl, Dr. Constance Leland, CJ, Lachelle, the super, woman and super mom right here. Get to know people like Lisa, Diane, Samson, of course, the amazing and only Leslie Flowers and Matthew. For all those here, connect with each other. We are better together, and the world is a better place because of how you each and individually show up. So know that you matters, you're loved. I appreciate each and every one of you, and may you always have peace, love, and prosperity in all that you do for you and your family, and then pass it on with loving kindness, right? The empathy for yourself, the grace to forgive yourself. If you haven't done whatever, but take action, know that with compassion for yourself and others, your world will be better, and others are blessed to be in your corner. So I appreciate each and every one of you, and may you have a wonderful and blessed upcoming Memorial Weekend, and happy holidays for those who are, or just be blessed and know that I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you next Friday if you're able to. We will have Lisa Marie in Australia will be joining us. But I might be doing maybe guided meditations in this time at 12, because for her is in Australia. So I will do for her at 6 p.m. Central Time. So that way she's not so in the middle of the night. But, I will always bring you much an expert, thought leaders, and wonderful, amazing soul to become not only here, so you can get to know the people, amazing people that are on LinkedIn here. So it's an honor and pleasure to be here with you all. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday and upcoming weekend, everyone. I love you all and appreciate each and every one of you. Bye, Margaret. Bye, Sharon. Bye, Medi. Bye, Daryl. Bye, Lisa. Bye, Dan, Samson, and of course, the amazing Leslie. Love you all.